What's goody, everybody? Today's topic, don't take life for granted. This topic resonates with me in so many ways because understanding the importance of life is what led to my new career today. Time is a never-ending number filled with emotions of happiness, sadness, and delight. So today, we're taking back control of what truly matters in our lives. Today's focuses is family, dreams, and mental peace. So now that we're live, let's dive. Point number 1, prioritize what matters. Hobbies versus passions. After all, hobbies are great to have. They put our mind at ease, but it's when we abuse them is when it takes us away from what we're supposed to be. Time just escapes. It flies. Because we'll say to ourselves, I'll just watch one episode, and then we're wondering how the whole day just flew by. And we all know why. It's just so hard to stop it. So for example, scrolling social media and the internet. After all, its main purpose is really to stay up to date with your family and friends. But I've definitely been on occasion scrolling for an hour or two, forgetting exactly where I began. Then we have playing the video game. Gotta love playing Call of Duty, Ultimate Team, or Fortnite. But then I forget to go to the gym and wondering, man, how did I lose my whole night? Then we have binge watching TV shows, anime, and movies. I'll say, you know what? I'll watch an hour or two. But then it's been 5 or 10 and I completely forgot everything I was supposed to do. Then we have going to the bars and partying. Sure, it might sound great before you go out, but then you wake up the next morning wondering, why am I on so little sleep with no money in my pouch? Oh, and if you had healthy eating and drinking habits on your mind, well, you might as well throw that out. So then the question becomes, how do I combat this? How do I find a solution? Well, what we really need to do is go after our hobbies and start a revolution. So, point number 1 is have time constraints, especially when it comes to social media and the internet. After all, its main purpose is really just to be up to date with your family and friends. 15-30 minutes a day is perfect. Otherwise, if you go overboard, you could very easily be led astray. So with video games and movies, I highly recommend just Fridays and the weekend. This purpose is to enjoy it, not to be succumbed by it. And when it comes to TV shows, maybe do 1 episode a night. What you can also add to it is a reward system. So you had a great day at work, completed a big project, got a great grade on the test, or your team won a game. Well, you know what? That night, I deserve to play the video game. Positive reinforcement. At the end of the day, regardless of what you do and when you do it, it's 24 hours. But by maximizing our time, it will allow us to be more focused, which is more success, which is more happiness. Our goal is really just to avoid burnout and maximize productivity. That's what reaches the ultimate goal of inner peace. We're not stagnant creatures. We love seeing success. So this is one step towards how we become our best. So now, point number 2 is what I'm diving into next. Point number 2, create balance. Jobs versus family. After all, jobs are very important. They put food on the table. We're supposed to do our best. The issue is when we become obsessed, it puts everything else into stress. Time just escapes, especially when we're striving for things that are honestly just short-lived and temporary. Just think about it. If we're always working late, we're always stressed about deadlines, and then we're never free. And if it's always on our mind, we're never really present for where we're supposed to be. And then if we have an obsession over awards, sure, they're fine, but it should never be validation, because after a week or two, you'll lose that admiration. And especially if you leave that job or career field, it's not even relevant to their organization. So then the question you might ask me is, hey Dimitri, shouldn't I be putting in countless hours and time to reach my goal? Well, before I give you my answer, I want you to hear from what these two very prominent people have told. First one is Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. Doesn't need much more of an introduction. Early on in his career, he didn't believe in vacation days or weekends off, and he would even document and track employees who would leave early and stay late, and chastise them in emails if they left. But this is the quote he recently told graduates. As I got older, especially once I became a father, I realized there's more to life than work. Don't wait as long as I did to learn this lesson. Take time to nurture your relationships, to celebrate your successes, and to recover from your losses. So the next person is Bruce Arians, prominent retired NFL coach, was an NFL coach for 9 years, 2-time Coach of the Year award winner, was also an offensive coordinator for 10 years. He won a Super Bowl as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator. This is the quote he has for his staff. For our coaches, I tell them if you miss a recital, a football game, or basketball game, I'll fire you. You can always come back and work. Your kids are not going to be there forever. They're going to grow up and be gone. The reason I wanted to bring those two up is because they're clearly very successful people in their line of work, but they understood or began to understand the importance of work-life balance and how you can be successful and have a life outside of work. So then next is we're going to identify solutions to this. First things first is don't get distracted when you're at work. Stay focused during work hours. The main key is we need to maximize our time. If you're there for 8 hours, concentrate those 8 hours on straight work, not browse on your phone, taking constant breaks, going out to eat. We need to confine that time as much as possible to be as productive as possible. So then when we're out of work, we're not distracted and we can truly enjoy the freedom we have outside that 9 to 5. Next thing is when you're out of work, turn off work. Just turn it off. You're out of office, you're not supposed to be responding to emails because that's what work hours are for. It's time for leisure for you to enjoy you. You're number one at the end of the day. And if you go on vacation, just completely delete your email app or silence notifications for your entire stay. Last but not least is to learn how and when to say no. Not everything is urgent. Don't let others be dependent on you. After all, you are number one. It must always stay that way for you to have true happiness as time goes on. This doesn't mean completely omit working late. We just don't want this to continuously be a habit that becomes far too great. After all, the goal of job and family is a work-life balance. But at the end of the day, it creates that ultimate goal of inner peace. Because if we can accomplish our balance, that is exactly what will be the best version of us. That's what we want to see. So now I'm gonna dive into point number 3. Point number 3, apologize and forgive. Purpose, mend relationships. But it's so much easier said than done. Because if something occurred that drives a grudge, which can create a wedge, and if nobody from either side tries to do anything to fix it, then that relationship very easily can get thrown over the edge. And time just escapes, which leads to bonds starting to break. Just think about it. Friends become foes and family becomes enemies. And that anger and anguish you have towards them creates a shell over who you used to be. That's what makes apologizing and forgiving so hard, but something we need to do, because ultimately it's a testament to you. You essentially have to cast your ego aside and do something you sometimes don't even feel like you need to do. But that's when you have to remember the importance of apologizing and forgiving. It's ultimately about you. So the question is, what do? You have to be honest, you have to be direct, and you have to be sincere. And you have to mean it from the bottom of your heart. Because remember, it's not about them, it's about you. It's all about how you feel and then what you do. You can't control their reaction at the end of the day. It's all about you and that inner freedom and that inner peace. So that's exactly how points 1, 2, and 3 relate to you and me. So in conclusion, remember these 3 things. Point number 1, prioritize what matters. Focus on passions, make room for hobbies. Point number 2, create balance. Always have time for those who are near and dear to you. And then point number 3, apologize and forgive. Nobody's perfect. Cast your ego aside for you. Those 3 are the keys to don't take life for granted. From one witness to another, you are special. Hook out.